Hello everybody, I am US Youth Soccer National League Commissioner Simon Collins, and today I'm joined by Mark Shields from ProScore, the founder CEO of ProScore. Mark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, it always seems weird to hear that, but I guess that's right, yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. It's much appreciated. You guys have been around us here at US Youth Soccer for around a year now, learning what we're about. And how's your experience been so far?
Yeah, obviously we're based in Europe and in Ireland, and it's a much smaller world here, but it's just amazing to see both the quality and I guess from our point of view the quantity of football that's happening both every Saturday across the country in the various states, but especially at the showcases and events where people get together in Orlando or Arizona, North Carolina next year, all of these places. So it's been a great experience for us so far, and we look forward to being able to contribute significantly to it in the future.
No, we appreciate you guys being involved with us. It's as you know, through multiple conversations we've had with multiple people, the idea is to try and make every game for a player a recruitable moment, and your technology and professionalism of your team has certainly helped us take a rather large step forward in doing that. So if you don't mind, can you share a little what ProScore is and what it does for people?
Yeah, so ProScore really exists to make sure that every recruitable moment, as you've said, of players, or every action is able to be put into the shop window. And in the modern world, people like to consume information in video format, so we can do a bit of data, but also to distill a game which might be 100 minutes long by the time you include halftime and whatever, into the most interesting 4 or 5 minutes if you want to look at the highlights of the game, but also the most interesting 3 or 4 minutes if a college coach or a parent or a player or a coach of their side are interested in looking at what constitutes success from the players playing in those games.
No, that's great. And you guys obviously, as well as helping us here in the elite and soon to progress through all levels of US youth soccer, you're also doing that over in the UK and around Europe with some of the rather large clubs throughout the Premier League. So
yeah, exactly. So we have a separate product called Incognito, which works with recruitment analysis and board members across a number of teams in the Premier League, the Championship, and across Europe. And it's a similar advent of tracking of performance that we will bring to the US Youth Soccer operation.
So the players in the US will get very similar offerings to what the Premier League clubs are using to recruit themselves and try and find the next top professional.
Yeah, very much so. Even to some extent a better service, because we're more freely able to use video in order to supplement the data that we have. But yeah, the premise is exactly the same as those Premier League sides.
So if that's what the clubs can use for recruiting, then obviously we're going to target lots of colleges that are going to use this information to try and help recruit players to their programs. Just as focusing on the player for a second now, how could this potentially improve their game?
Well, from the players' point of view, the key aspect is show me and I'll understand. So we will be recording every significant action of a player without the game or within the game, which means that they can look at if they have a decent dribble, but the cross isn't quite good enough, is like, how was my body position technically? Show me what I have done without me going into a VO footage and chopping all of that myself. So it's an ability to understand in a very open skill game the effects of your actions, and then plan for, well, if I felt a situation similar to that in future, this is what I would do. This is what I would do differently.
And what I've found in obviously know a fair bit about your platform and product. One thing that really stands out for me as well is it's not just what a player does on the ball; it's off the ball intelligence as well, the body position, what shape they make, and how they influence play, maybe transitioning that ball away from goal. And there's not many other people out there that are doing that right now.
No, I guess it's the size of the size of the problem. I suppose that we've done a lot of data analysis, but one of the simplest pieces of data that you can do is that there are 22 players on the pitch and only one of them is in possession of the ball at any one time. So you're saying that less than 5% of the players on the pitch are in possession of the ball, and you guys will know yourselves that the other 21 are not doing nothing. It's their movement, whether it's a defensive player to work to get goal side to force the attacking player to pass it sideways, or whether it's an attacking player making an incisive run in order to drag a defender. Such a high percentage of what happens in football is off the ball, and even stuff on the ball is often very difficult to measure, because how do we measure the important attributes of intelligence, decision making, effort, etc., which are hugely important. The only thing that I would say that is slightly different is lots of people do this, as in that's what scouts are looking for, whether that's at the top level in Europe, at college level, at club level, they see and are aware of this. But where this is different is we have the manifestation of skills like that in data, first of all, but more importantly in video, that we're able to recognize that as an influential part of the game rather than just a diary description of this is a pass, this is a cross, this is a tackle, whatever.
So when you've collected all this information, it's vitally important that it's presentable to the scout, be that professional scout, college scout, whoever that may be. How can them guys? How will it help them guys recruit the college name? What does it take? Does it support them?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll explain a little bit about the professional world first. Like most of the Premier League clubs, they'll be able to sign players from 30 leagues. There are 600 players playing each league. They play 90 minutes each week. They play 40 games a year. So if you're going to watch each player play every minute of every game, you'd have to watch 65 million minutes of football, which is obviously absolutely impossible. Now, if you then take that to the US market, the scale of that problem is actually much more significant, because there are more players playing. The recruiting staff of colleges or professional clubs are less, so therefore there is more chance of people slipping through the net, so to speak. And I know from my experience at showcases that we would often see college coaches going about between pitches, sort of haphazardly watching, and they might watch 5 minutes of a game, and which again is only a 20th of the entire game. So if your best 5 minutes don't happen to be those 5 minutes, there is a chance that you can miss out. And it really seems like that process is inefficient. And really what we're looking to do is to say, well, okay, give us the footage. We will chop it into our ways, in which case we'll immediately make, from a team point of view, the 5 minutes of best highlights that represent your team. So therefore the college coaches, rather than watching a random 5 minutes, can watch the really most efficient 5 minutes of what you can do as the players of the team. But we also have a bit of technology called the overlay, which will overlay the name and number of the player in accordance with their actions. So rather than me being the number 7 playing for a particular team, they'll know that I am Mark Shields, and that overlay is dynamic. So in the team highlights, if I have a good cross, it will say Mark Shields in the top left-hand corner. And if it is clicked on that, that will take straight to my profile, which will then have the highlights of all of my performances from previous weeks. So it's a way of signposting two methods in terms of efficiency. First of all, distilling a long game into the most efficient 4 or 5 minutes, but also then recognizing the level of performance of the players within that game, so that if a college or professional coach likes the look of a player, they can go and look at their player profile as well.
And that's available to Elite 64, National League Pro, and then eventually we'll go through every single National League conference. And what's important about that is it makes every single game a recruitable moment. So as long as the team's capturing the video footage of league games and they upload the game footage and then you guys get a hold of that, that's available for every single game that the kids play.
Yeah, I just add one thing to that. We need and we'll be in contact with clubs starting actually from today, but we need two things really. We need the video footage, a VO links, video trace, whoever that is. And secondly, we need to know who the players are who are on the pitch. So we have a very, very simple to fill in form within our website, which will say, okay, number 5 is Simon Collins, number 7 is Mark Shields, and so on, so that we can recognize your players. And how that starts, what we'll ask for originally is for each of your teams, we need what we're going to call a team official contact. That team official at the start of the year sends us through your roster, and then for each game, it just identifies Simon Collins is wearing 5, Mark Shields is wearing 7, etc., throughout the team. So it's a very, very that form should take less than a minute to fill in per game, and that in conjunction with the video, and then we'll do the rest.
Perfect. So over the course of a year and over the course of multiple years, a player's able to build their own soccer resume that's got its own highlights, it's got its own high action, low action moments, on the ball, off ball intelligences, and what about from a leaderboard standpoint, a fun factor for the kids?
I'll come back to the first point and then we'll look at the resume should build itself, so one of the things that is different with this is we've spoken to a number of players, and they express their frustration. They're like, I spent 2 days creating my highlights, and I submitted them on a Thursday, and then all of a sudden I scored the best goal I've ever scored on the Saturday, and I was like, oh, that's great, but it means that my highlights are out of date. The idea is that this is just a dynamic record, so that will automatically feed through to that resume with much less effort on creation on your part. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's a great point. It's good that the kids, and importantly, the parents understand the lens at which we're trying to go to make the recruitable moment easier and more achievable for the players that's playing in Elite 64 and throughout the entire National League. And I'll just circle back to the leaderboard, because I know the young athletes like to see where they are, who they compete against. It's always fun that it's a competitive sport, highly competitive sport, to be quite honest with you, and they're always trying to brag and see where they are. So what would that look like from a player standpoint?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously with the recruitment piece that we do in Europe, we have a leaderboard. But actually, the leaderboard is quite dynamic because, well, obviously it changes week on week. But if you take the right backs in the Premier League, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold is arguably the best going forward, certainly by our numbers, but he is not the best defensively. Whereas if we look at, a Reece James or a Kieran Trippier, is a much more balanced profile. So actually, in that leaderboard, what you have going, it depends on what you want from whether that's again a club team, a college team, a professional team, what you want from a right fullback or a right outside back. Do you want them to bomb forward, get lots of crosses in, or do you want them to be like, well, we're set up not to concede? So, a leaderboard is a function of a lot of those environments. So the leaderboard that we create within that world is, well, if I put a high emphasis on things going forward, Alexander-Arnold will be right at the top. But if I put a higher emphasis on a defensive quality right back, then he will be further down. So what we will have when we collect enough data from the teams is the equivalent of that. So from a player point of view, I'd want to be like, well, if I model myself as a defensive right back, where am I in my state? Where am I in my region? Like, where am I nationally? How's that tracked across, because I feel I've been really, really good in the last 4 games, but actually I was carrying an injury in the 4 games before that. So it's the ability for data to tell a story of that, but it all be linked to video in your profile, because ultimately people will be in a position to judge for themselves, but that will add to the competitiveness. We've done this a little bit so far with team of the week, team of the event at the National League Pro, but it's exciting to be able to be involved in fixtures that happen not just at showcases, because it gives us a lot more information in order to determine who's going to be the best centre forward in Elite 64 at under 16 girls level. Good luck.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I think I'll focus a little on a college recruitment piece. So if I'm, let's say I am UCF in Central Florida, and my style of play is I want to play 3 central defenders. The middle central defender, I want 6 foot plus, right-footed, likes to play the ball at the back. Are they able to go into the system and kind of filter through so that they can find the players that best suit the needs of their particular program?
Yeah, exactly right. This is a question we've solved many times for the professional clubs, and actually, even more than that, because my understanding of the UCF or the college system is, like, from a sports point of view, they may want to play 3 centre backs with a ball playing middle of the 3, 6 foot, and good in the air. But they might be under pressure academically to say, this kid's got to be 3.9 GPA or above, and all of that is part of that central, as part of that central area, because it's recruitment of student athletes, so we're able to visualize the best of what you can do on the pitch on a regular basis, but also we're in a position to communicate what you have in terms of, like, academic performance, what you're keen to study, etc. on top of that.
That's great. I'm so excited as to what it's gonna come out like, and what's the next steps for in particular the Elite 64 clubs. What do you need from them? How can we help?
Yeah, so our commercial team, led by David, will be in contact. We were in contact actually with the first clubs today, so we're contacting by conferences which start first. So we will be in contact with you, across the coming days and weeks, months, if you're slightly later starting in the year due to the high school season or whatever. Really, we need one thing to kick it off. We just need, from directors of coaching or club officials generally, we need, for the under 14 boys, who's our contact? For the under 14 girls, who's our contact? And we're not going to labor them with marketing staff or whatever. We just need roster at the start of the season, and then that form input. We've loads of guys happy to help on calls and whatever, if there are any questions. But in essence, for now, it's get in contact with us, team officials, and then we'll take it from there.
Mark, appreciate everything. You guys are helping us to change the soccer landscape, making every game a recruitable moment. I'm Simon Collins, joined here by Mark Shields from ProScore. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.